Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the race reaction for the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's been a little while since I've used the words race reaction at the start of the stream. It has been a while. In fact, it is pretty much 12 months since we did one of these, so very much looking forward to that. Stuart, in just a second, just want to run through the intro as always and say hello to some people in chat. We'll do some shout outs, but yes, the race reactions are back. Unfortunately, the season's now over, so you'll have to wait until March for the next one. But hey, we're here. We're in the alpha stage. We're getting there. Hey to the Mac, Chambers in chat as well. Hey to John T. Very excited for the race reaction. Hey to Noisy, Michael and Duckrut as well. Hey to Fud, to Max, to Valentine, to Caspian, to Professional Moron. It's been a while, mate. How are you? CPB as well. Is it Vaja? I apologise. To Black Rider as well, to Neelish, to a Yinka. I've said hey to Michael, but you get a second one as well. Why not? Hey to Kaori, to Sam, to Connell, to Tommy, and to Pascal as well. Hope you've all had a fantastic Sunday. Please do drop a like on the stream, by the way. Let me know that you're pleased to see them back, and subscribe if you're new. Lots of new subscribers today. I'm also very happy to say that once it's all cleared with YouTube and I've applied for it, we will have super chats enabled very, very soon. So not today, but yeah, still a little way to go full monetization, but you guys have really nailed it this year with the old trying to get this channel off the ground and business like that. Let's hope this is all going to work. We did test it earlier. I've pressed the wrong button, so probably not going to work now, which is just classic me. I've got so many pictures ever, I can't find you, and it's all out. Hang on a second, where are we? We're working. We got there in the end. A very good afternoon, or pre-evening, I suppose, to Stuart. Hello, Stuart. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and as I was saying to you earlier, I think I'm going to be a bit rusty. My memory's worse than it ever was, so good luck getting through this one, because I'm sure we'll have some reminiscing through not just the race, but the year as well. But yeah, fun to be back. Glad to be chatting about F1 again. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have crowned a world champion today. We need to talk about that. But I think, obviously, as this is a race reaction, we'll start with some race reaction. I think my summary of that one is it wasn't the best, but because you've got a world championship on the line, it kind of creates its own excitement, doesn't it? There's always that tension, that drama that something could happen. And there were a few moments in the race, Lando getting dropped into traffic and having to overtake a few cars, including Yuki Tsunoda, who is not as good as Sergio Perez at defending, as we found out today. And, you know, coming through against some of the moves he made, some really good moves. Oscar's move at the start. There were some really tense moments in there, but really it was just a case of watching that championship prediction and who's going to do it rather than a race packed of action. But you know, it was okay for Abu Dhabi, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Martin Brundle, if you happen to be watching that commentary wherever you live, summed it up in that it wasn't exciting, but it was tense throughout, and that just the championship permutations hanging over everything gave it a sense of tension. I was on the edge of I was nervous before the race, and on the edge of my seat throughout, which was really strange because I kind of reasoned with myself beforehand, and I truly believe this. Whoever came out on top as champion, I'd be happy. They'd be deserving. Max came back from a long way to get this close. Oscar would have to pull some miracle out, and Norris had just been pretty on it all year. So I would have been happy. I wasn't particularly rooting for anyone, but just the tension of something bursting at some point, and like almost immediately we had the top three got away well, but then we had Leclerc and Alonso fighting behind them so aggressively with each other that I thought they might hit each other and then just plow straight through the McLarens. I was worried about that. And then we had Piastri just making that big move around the outside at turn 9 on lap 1, which I thought I honestly didn't think they were going to go at each other so hard. So and then once you've got Lando in third place, where he's on the very edge of where he needs to be to secure that title, with suddenly Leclerc having all the pace in the world, then that meant Norris couldn't relax for the whole race and just had that kind of tension hanging over him, especially when you had the possibility of him getting a 5-second penalty with that Tsunoda incident. So yeah, it had a lot going on with it, and actually more racing than I would have thought. Not necessarily at the front, but throughout.
Yeah, that Piastri move on the first lap, I mean, that was... it is an overtaking spot. We saw the F2 guys really went for it at turn 9 this weekend, but that was a ballsy move for a first lap with everything on the line. I know he kind of the three, probably had the least to lose, so had to go for it, but I'm with you. I wasn't expecting him to go quite so quickly with a move like that. But also, I feel like Lando didn't back out as much as I expected he would in that situation. He just sort of kept his car in there to make sure that he was keeping Piastri honest. So that was good to see. But I do wonder if that had been 3 races ago, if maybe Lando would have been a bit more aggressive, of course. But yeah, but I think really enjoyed that move by Piastri. And like you say, lots in the midfield. Ferrari just being classically trolling Sean as usual, you know. I'm here like you, happy with whoever wins it, but obviously as a Verstappen fan, that's my preference. So I'm looking at Leclerc going, oh my god, Ferrari gonna do a job for me here, and they're like, oh, tease him, and no. So oh, thanks Ferrari. Love you loads. It's always the same. But Leclerc kept that interesting because Russell wasn't really there, was he? So Charles Leclerc certainly kept it interesting, but as I kept saying in the watch on, the problem was, even if Norris had fallen behind Leclerc, 2 laps to go, McLaren were just going to tell Piastri to pit or stop on track and let them both through, and Norris would have won it anyway. So it's sort of a little bit less tense, but then you've got to rely on Piastri, which I'm sure he would have done, but abiding by that team order. But I have to say, sort of my immediate thought on that is I'm really relieved that didn't need to happen, because whilst it's a team sport and I have no problem with team orders in those situations, and I'd understand McLaren's call, it would still have left a bit of a bad taste in the mouth if Piastri had to let 2 places go for his teammate to take the title. So I'm glad that we didn't get to that point, but it was tense enough. Meanwhile, up front, Max Verstappen just pretty much disappeared, didn't it? It felt like 2023 Max, just not quite as big a gap.
Yeah, I think Max had a brilliant race today and seemed to be able to respond to whatever other people were doing around him. You know, obviously he was keeping on the radio to see what Piastri is up to, but I don't think Piastri or Norris really had an answer for Verstappen's pace, which again was a little bit of a surprise because there was a lot of talk before the race of that maybe Red Bull had geared their car towards qualifying just to get that all-important track position, because it is difficult to overtake here, and then maybe McLaren will have more pace to pressure Verstappen with during the race. But actually it never really came much to that, and Verstappen had it in hand, and I believe ends the season with the most wins, 8 wins to the 7 each for both of the McLarens. So he lost the title today, but I think he comes out of it with a sort of another masterclass performance and showing that he still is the driver to beat. He is the benchmark for everybody. Really solid race for him. And I'm also glad this race didn't come down to some kind of shenanigans. Like, he was questioning sort of what the situation was between Leclerc, Norris, and Piastri, and there were some question marks from commentary over like maybe do a pit stop to get himself back sort of closer to Piastri and then start holding everyone up and causing, you know, just trying to do a Hamilton 2016 situation. But it didn't come to that. Everyone just raced their heart out and went as fast as they could and just see where the places lied. I do agree that Piastri would have moved over if it had come to that, if Leclerc pressured Norris too much. But I think, to me, it wasn't necessarily that Leclerc would overtake Norris. It was that Leclerc would try and overtake Norris and accidentally hit him. That's always the risk of, because he was looking very racy. A lot of people were looking very racy and making some kind of last minute hard-breaking moves. And that's always the worry. I didn't want it to come down to some kind of like clumsy accident, which which it nearly did with Tsunoda, which we can talk about at some point. But yeah, I enjoyed that it was a clean, hard race and that everybody can come away with their heads held high.
Yeah, and in the end, quite a straightforward one-stopper for Verstappen and Piastri. Piastri ran very long, didn't he? Actually longer than, almost as long as Pirelli said the maximum was, 45 laps. He did 41, so made the one-stopper work when a lot of cars went for the 2. So in that battle, Norris and Leclerc in particular, but pretty comfortable for Verstappen. But in the end, not quite enough for Max. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, 6-7 races ago, he wasn't even in this. So the fact that we're at the finale even talking about him just missing out by 2 points, one underlines just the incredible driver that Max Verstappen is, but also it's difficult to be annoyed that he didn't win it because he wasn't in it until recently. So, and actually, to be fair, Stuart, maybe you'll agree, but until the disqualification in Las Vegas, I thought that was done then. I thought he was out at that stage anyway. So as soon as that DSQ came in for McLaren, that's when he was back in it. So it's very difficult to be completely disappointed they didn't win it. But also, I know a lot of people disagree with this, but I kind of feel like out of Piastri and Norris, they're both such really nice guys that I don't mind them taking it. I just don't think there's a bad bone in their bodies. I love how chill Piastri is and how pragmatic or magnanimous, is that the word I'm looking for, he's been in defeat, and how happy it is to see Lando Norris in tears and celebrate. His mum's fantastic, by the way. His mum's incredible. She's a state, bless her, at the minute. She was brilliant post-race. But yeah, no, I'm really pleased for Lando. He is the world champion. But what I wanted to ask you this, is a weird way to frame it, I suppose, but if I'd have said to you after Zandvoort that Lando Norris would be world champion from Max Verstappen by just 2 points, how hard would you have laughed in my face at that point?
Pretty hard,
Very.
but there would have been a part of me that goes, yeah, it is Max Verstappen though. If they come back from the summer break and they've done something to that car, and he will, as he's shown, he will maximize, which he was doing in the first half of the season. He was maximizing the potential of what he wasn't like 5 races in. He was like, well, Red Bull's nowhere compared to McLaren, so I don't think I'm going to win this championship. He still was grabbing every point he could because you never know how things are going to turn around. And actually, I think we chatted about this in the week. We rarely get a chance to have a hypothetical proved. And I think last year, when it was sort of the reverse and Lando was, McLaren had found performance in the middle of the year, but Lando was about 70 points back and trying as hard as he could really to catch Verstappen, and didn't manage it in the end. But, a lot of people were talking about then that if it had been the other way around, if it had been Verstappen having to have chased, he would have done a better job. He would have maximized harder. I think he would have got a lot closer. And I really enjoyed the fact that we kind of got to it. Obviously, there are lots of different variables. It's not the identical situation, but I'm glad we got to see that situation play out and see what Max Verstappen could do when on the back foot, when a lot of points behind, having to fight his way all the way back. And he got within 2 points, which is unbelievable. I know he had disqualification that helped him out there, but my goodness, Max, if you'd have told me halfway through the year that Max Verstappen would come away with the most wins, I would have laughed. I would have laughed at you then. That is, I've really enjoyed all of this season and all the twists and turns that have come along the way.
And it's not been, there have been moments, but it's not been as toxic and controversial as the last time we did an Abu Dhabi Grand Prix race reaction when a title was on the line. But 2021, I think it was Hazel put it on Blue Sky. She was saying that she went into, I think we're all the same, and we just wanted 2021 to be over. Whereas this year, whilst it has been a long season, maybe not from a content point of view, from a fan point of view, I'd be quite happy for a few more races of this. Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, it's been a lot of fun to watch that unfold. Don't get me wrong, I'm ready for a break. But it has been a really enjoyable. It's not been nasty, has it? There have been moments, there have been comments, there have been little games played, but it's felt like it does feel like and I appreciate some Piastri fans might not agree here, but I feel like it's been the best man won kind of season in the end. But it's a really strange feeling because I feel like that would have been the case whoever won it this year. I don't think any of them didn't deserve to win it. Each of them has had a period this season or a handful of races where they've been in. I mean, look at Piastri's start of the season. He went on that run of wins. He was unstoppable. Then he got a bit flappy sort of mid-season. He had that mistake at Silverstone with the penalty, and then it all started falling apart after Zandvoort. I think Farting Golf Balls just said in chat, 115 points he dropped to Max Verstappen since Zandvoort. So, he really fell away. Max came back strong. Norris, Mexico, what a weekend that was. Brazil as well, actually. Just a dominant weekend. So they've all had weekends and periods in the season where they've done enough to deserve the championship, but they've all, either through their car or through their own mistakes, have had errors that you might say, well, maybe they're throwing this away. So it feels like it's about right, the way the season's finished, which is strange, but I can imagine a few Piastri fans are pointing at certain things this season. But that's another thing, actually. I am glad that Piastri didn't miss out on the title by like a point and everyone goes, Monza, because that would have been a nightmare as well. So, I'm happy for Lando. Really pleased for him. I'm not the most patriotic of person. To be honest, I don't know if you're the same, Stuart, but there is a little bit of pride in that we've got another British world champion. That's number 11, and that's always nice to see. But I can't bring myself to say anything negative, which is nice after an Abu Dhabi title decider, to be honest. So I don't know what I'm saying, really. Just I'm very happy for Lando Norris, and I can now say with pride that I have been called a dickhead by an F1 world champion. So there you go. It was back in January 20. It was the year he went off to do. Was it Daytona with Fernando Alonso as teammate? So it's Prix F1, and we went over and I was talking to him and I cracked a few jokes. He was like, "Oh, dickhead," and I was like, "Fair enough." So there you go. That's my pride now. So I'll write that back there. But yeah, no, very happy for him, and I think. I know Red Raven, I don't know if he's in chat, but he'll make a point like this. But given some of the excuse the language, but shit that he's had to take this year, it's kind of nice to see him come out on top, actually, and prove a few people wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it felt kind of since he turned up that this was the trajectory for Lando Norris's career, or at least he's the kind of driver that given the opportunity would take it and at least fight for a world championship. And I'm glad he managed to get it. And I'm really glad this year that actually all three of them were drivers I could get behind. It felt like a very healthy competition. It didn't, 2021 was a real low point because they basically weren't talking to each other and their fan bases were hating each other and everything was just horrible. The discussion was horrible to be around. And I think I know you're a big Max Verstappen fan. I've had my issues with him time to time. I think sometimes he can be a little bit not toxic, but I think the way he sometimes loses his temper in with his helmet on has sometimes annoyed me. But actually, I think having 4 world championships behind him and just accepting where he is with the car this year and a lot of things, for the most part, he's actually been pretty chill and pretty fair. And I've actually got on with him a lot more. He had that one blip in Spain, which he owned up to. But otherwise, like all three of them have actually been people I could really get behind. And I haven't been on Twitter because I kind of left Twitter. I don't know what's going on over there, but it's felt more like the culture around the people supporting these drivers has been a lot gentler and I don't know. I think supportive. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing.
I am still on Twitter because I need to for some of the other stuff I do, but I can assure you. Whilst I don't see as much Lando Norris fans having to go at Max Verstappen fans and vice versa, it is still toxic conspiracy hell over there. So bot central as well. Unless you've got a tick, you ain't getting any kind of interaction. So it's just negative. So when I come to do these streams and go on Blue Sky and just see normal F1 fans just talking about it and chatting away and oh no, my driver lost, never mind, happy for the others, it's kind of like, this is a nice place to be. So looking at you, chat, behave, don't start. Where's Kevin? He will start. But yeah, no, I mean, just a final word on Max Verstappen for today. Great drive, like I say, great turnaround this season. Never thought he'd be in it, and he managed to get himself there. So to miss out on 2 points is frustrating because it is only 2 points, and your mind does go back to things through the season. But it's been one of those seasons where I don't think you can pinpoint one specific moment and say they lost it or won it here, because there's just too many things have happened with engine failures, disqualifications, crashing into each other as teammates, penalty for Piastri itself. There's just been too many ups and downs. So, but it is frustrating. But great effort from him, and huge congratulations to Lando Norris. I mean, he's a world champion. Will he have the number 1 in his car next season? I think he will. I know 4 is his brand, but I feel like he's a little bit like Max in that he's a racer first, and I feel like he'd quite like the number 1 in his car. Intrigued to see whether Max goes with 33 or 3. See whether that gets sorted out.
Yes.
But that's the big story of the winter, folks. Very excited. But yeah, really happy for Lando. Congrats to McLaren as well. I mean, what a turnaround from those disastrous years with Honda as well. I mean, there was a point where I never thought McLaren would win any world championship again, let alone back-to-back constructors and a driver's title too. So huge credit to him. As much as I don't like Zach Brown, he has to get the credit for that as well. The job he's done for Oscar and Lando. It's been that was an accent, by the way. What is it Rob Bryan says? I'm doing Zach Brown or whatever he words it, but could have worded that better. But yeah, Oscar Piastri then second place today, misses out on the championship again. He's very relaxed. He's practically horizontal, isn't he? He's so relaxed. So I can't really read. I imagine he's full of disappointment and really gutted. But I just feel a bit like it got away from him because he seems to have things under control and could have just prosted his way to the World Championship after Zandvoort, and then Baku happened and everything else fell apart. Lando found form. Max suddenly started getting involved. So it's a shame for him. But I feel like he and McLaren did all they could for him today. They ran as long as possible, maybe a bit of safety car hanging with that longer first stint on the hards, maybe trying that one out, hoping something would come to them. But Max had the edge today. He had the advantage. I don't think Oscar could have done much more today. I think he needed to be top two, and for Norris to just have an absolute disaster, didn't he, today? In fact, I think he needed to win with Norris. He needed to beat Verstappen, didn't he? And then hope Norris had a disaster. So it was always a long shot, but I feel a bit for him. But it is only his third season in F1, and he is a driver that I look at. I look at his demeanour. I look at how he handles, these disappointments. I look at how he drives. I feel like it's easy to say now in the moment, but I feel like he is still a future world champion. I think next season, if McLaren have the car to beat again, I think he will be the main challenger to Norris, and I think he may well come out on top. So I think he's got a very bright future ahead of him, but it's going to be hard for him to come out of this and be too excited about the future, isn't it? Bless him. But nice guy, and it is a shame, but over the course of the season, Lando was the better of the two, because they both made mistakes, but Piastri, that lull. What was it? When was it? It was Zandvoort he won, and then he wasn't on the podium again until... Was it the podium at Monza? Or something like that, but then he wasn't on the podium again until about Vegas or something, was he? And that you can't do that in a championship fight.
No, it was the wrong moment as well. He just lost all momentum at all the wrong time after having such a run. Like his run from, I guess, China, as I'm looking at the table now, through to Italy, even though Italy had to give up a place. He looked peerless. He was cool. He was making very few mistakes. At a point, earlier in the year, I did call up Lando on, he did tend to make more mistakes. He did seem to be a little bit more fragile under pressure in the way that Oscar was not, which is why, I felt very confident that Oscar was just going to keep his head down and take it to the end. But just that little hiccup from Italy onwards, and people say maybe the swapping around affected him, but I think it was more a change in the car. They had that, they fiddled around with the suspension, didn't they? And he just seemed out of sorts. And then he had that terrible Azerbaijan, and I don't know if it threw him off or whatever. But what I am glad for is these last two races, he looked like the Piastri we had at the beginning of the season. He had a really, really good Qatar that happened to get shafted by strategy calls. He looked good today. He was on a slightly, maybe not the optimum strategy, but he still came second out of it, particularly with Lando having to cover Leclerc. I don't think he's going to have a Mark Webber moment in, because Mark Webber in 2010 against Verstappen, he looked stronger through a lot of that year, or at least seemed to be handling being on top until the end. Then he had a wobble, and then he lost it, and then he just never seemed to come back from it. And I know there's a lot to having the team behind you being the world champion and then being the other guy, but I think we're going to see more of a Rosberg style, getting his claws stuck in and keeping it going. So I'm really interested to see where he goes from here. But I'm glad we saw some good classic Oscar today, and in Qatar. I think good season all round. I think him and Verstappen actually today, I think it was a lot easier for them to process losing because they were both outside chances. They were both a significant amount of points away. So, by the time it the checkered flag falls and you know where you are. I think they were kind of accepting that that's probably the likely outcome. I think Oscar kind of processed this a couple of races ago, maybe. This is the way things were falling, and he was the outside chance. So I think the cool down run made me giggle a little bit in a sad way, because you sort of went straight from Lando having this interview trackside, and I was kind of wondering where the other two had gone, and then it just kind of hard cut to both of them looking miserable in the cool down room. I don't think they were miserable, but I think they were both chilling out, but it just was such an energy change. It was quite funny, but I do think both of them are kind of like knew the writing was at least half on the wall a race or two back.
Yeah, 12 points is still a big margin, isn't it, in the final race? So they needed something to happen to Lando, and it never looked like it was going to. Leclerc was a threat, but again, they could have just swapped them back around anyway, so it wouldn't have been a disaster. But just, on the strategy side of it, I agree, it wasn't the optimal strategy, but they had to try something different, didn't they, with Oscar? So I kind of like they did, rather than just doing the same strategy for both drivers and see what happened. They tried something different, didn't quite work. I think he needed 1.5 seconds a lap on Verstappen with 15 to go or something, and it just wasn't going to happen. But it was worth a go. Didn't work out, and again, without Lando dropping out or falling back and having a disaster, which, with all due respect to Lando, he is a world champion now, but I'll still, to be fair, we've seen this season those mistakes can happen from Lando, so there's always that possibility. But yeah, it's the best bit about the cool-down room was that they were sort of doing the small talk thing, and then Max was like, "Oh well, we'll see what we get next year, I guess." It's like, yeah, weather's a bit bad today, isn't it? It's a bit hot. Very, very awkward conversation. But yeah, I think Oscar can hold his head high, I think, this season. But the other thing I will say is that I know, was it the Beyond the Grid podcast he did, where he did actually say that Monza did have an impact on him. Like sort of mentally, it had an effect, but that's the sort of thing. Again, we can get into this another day, but that's the sort of thing that if you're going to win a world championship, you need to suck it up a bit and try and put that to the back of your mind and deal with that. And maybe with a couple more years' experience, he would have done. Everyone's different, of course, but I think he can still be very proud of his season. It is only season number 3 for him. It's season number 7 for Lando Norris, by the way. Hasn't time flown? Really, it's quite incredible. So, yeah, congrats to Lando. Congrats to Oscar for a great season. Credit to McLaren a little bit, which you won't hear from Sean very often. Whilst it was a bit silly at times, allowing them to continue to race was a big decision that could have gone very wrong and nearly did, but they got it over the line. So credit where it's due there. At least they could, at least Zach Brown could be very happy with his ethos, or whatever he calls it, about how he goes racing. So he can put that certificate on his wall now. I was right, which will be happy. Have another barbecue maybe. All he's talked about all weekend. Congrats to Max as well. But it wasn't just the drivers decided to say the thrilling battle for P7 in the Constructors was wrapped up as well, Stuart. I know we've all been really excited by that one, and nothing changed really. Although there was a weird moment at the end of the race where Stroll got a penalty and dropped out of the points, but then Bearman got the same penalty for the same infringement, and then Stroll moved back into the points, which on another weekend or in another season where things were a little bit closer, maybe a point in it between the two teams, that could have been critical. As it was, Aston took P7, Haas 10 points back in P8, and Sauber 9 points further back in P9. I know it might seem strange jumping straight to that, but I thought, while we're talking championship decider things, that was something that needed to be decided. We have that decider now. Well done to Aston. I wouldn't have believed that 5 races ago, because they were nowhere. I thought they were in trouble, but they've clung on to 7, and I think it's $10 million per position-ish in the Constructors, so some nice money there to pay Adrian Newey a bit more for next year when he delivers the car they're desperate for. But yeah, great stuff from particularly Fernando Alonso this season. I think in that car, I mean, the wily old fox that he is, he's inevitable, isn't he? But that was set up nicely going into the race with them all lining up together on the grid with Alonso, Ocon and Bortoletto, I think it was, wasn't it? So didn't really get very exciting in the end. Few moments, but all done and dusted for P7. So that's the other thing wrapping up. And I think as well, was it P10 needed sorting in the drivers? And guess who did that, Stuart? It was the wily old fox again, out of nowhere. 10th place for Fernando Alonso, pipping Hulkenberg by 5 points in Hadjar as well. So the guy's inevitable. But yeah, I'm happy for Aston. But I'm going to be honest, I was kind of hoping Sauber might have a really strong finish and pinch P7 in their latest final season. Latest final season.
They'll be back. I mean, we joke about the fight for P7 and all that, but my goodness, what a midfield we've had. And by midfield, I mean all the way to 9th, essentially. Even though Alpine are the highest scoring last team in history, like, my goodness me, like every race we could have had anyone from the top 9 teams up there scoring points. We've been really treated by that. And I know we've had a championship battle going on at the front as well, but actually there's a proper old ruckus going on. And sometimes I think it is because we've had a little bit of toing and froing between which of these, 5 teams from 5th to 9th are sort of strongest from race to race. We've had some ebbs and flows. Like Aston Martin seems to be really strong sometimes, but when they are strong, Alonso is like 5th or 6th, and Hajar and Racing Bulls have been pretty like it's been we've been treated this year, and I think we have no idea what's going to happen next year. We're going into a whole new Wild West of an era. And that could be said for like McLaren as well. Like the 2 McLaren drivers we haven't really mentioned, but for them, this could be their one chance at going for a world title. No matter how good you are, you might never end up in a good car again. Look at Fernando Alonso. So yeah, I mean, that's another reason why Piastri might be sad. So yeah, I don't know if we'll get treated as hard next season or seasons to come. I'm optimistic because we seem to be moving into this era now where teams are run by engineers. We're moving away from like business people being the team managers, whereas actually engineers who know how to run teams of designers, teams of people working on the cars. And they seem to be having a very strong effect on their teams. And also the cost cap as well is bringing people closer together. So I'm hopeful we get this kind of mix up going forwards. Yeah. Even though the teams didn't shuffle around at the end, they were still fighting for it right to the end. It was very close. Like on track today, it was pretty close. The field spread took a long time to kind of take effect, I thought. And that was also a thing that was like frightening McLaren as well, because they didn't have an easy place to drop either of their drivers into in the middle of the race when they took a pit stop.
I mean, only 4 cars were lapped, and 2 of those were Alpines, and 1 was Lawson, who had a 5-second time penalty. So, I mean, it wasn't. It was definitely close out there, and yeah, I agree, and we'll talk more about each team as we go through them. But I just wanted to wrap up the things that were left to be decided, really, that matter. I don't think top 10 of the drivers really matters for fans, but drivers might get a nice little bonus. So, and Fernando Alonso again up there in 10th place. He just has this way, doesn't he, of doing it. So, yeah, nothing else to add on that one. But yeah, we talked a little bit about. We'll run through a little bit of the order here. We talked about Charles Leclerc a little bit. He was the biggest threat to McLaren. I don't bloody understand that team. I can't. I just. I don't want to get into it again because I've had a proper couple of rants on this. But John Elkann's comments. I could sort of understand his frustration with maybe Lewis Hamilton, but Charles Leclerc, once again this weekend, as he has all season, has dragged everything out of that bloody car, taken P4, threatened for a podium. I don't, 7 podiums this year he's had in that car. Hamilton hasn't had any at all. He's been knocked out of Q1 in 3 races in a row. If we include SQ1 as well in Qatar, that's 4. It's been shocking for him, but Leclerc's done everything he can, and I kind of feel like this season or this race sort of summed up his season a little bit, just able to extract the maximum from the car, get close, but the car's just not quite good enough to get him that little bit further. But of course, again, without ranting about it too much, that car, according to John Elkann, has been improving. I don't know what he's watching. Maybe he's watching, I don't know, Stranger Things, rather than watching F1, because he's not been watching his car because it's not getting better. But great drive from Leclerc today. And to be fair, Lewis Hamilton as well. He was up 8th place in the end and finished P8. I mean, that's a pretty good turnaround as well. He looked pretty racy too. Like I say, both Ferraris were in amongst the battles today, one way or another, which was nice to see for a change.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know where this pace came from. And I agree that John Elkann, who doesn't speak out a lot, and I think I know why, because that was a load of rubbish, whatever he said. It's entirely wrong about this Ferrari car. A car that's improving does not fall from fighting quite hard for second in the championship to falling to fourth by the end. That's not the mark of an improving car. But today, no idea. They were struggling through the rest of the weekend. They've been struggling for the last few races. Even as this race was progressing, and in the early stages, Leclerc was fighting Norris pretty hard, stayed in his DRS for quite a long time. In the back of my mind, I was like, well, give it 6 laps, and then he'll have to be lifting and coasting for the next 50 laps. That's what I was expecting to happen. But to be honest, Leclerc's pace stayed with Norris until about 5 laps to go. That's when he just started to drop back a bit. So I don't know. Today the Ferrari works. They probably don't know why. And they'll probably turn up in March, probably not knowing how their car's going to do, giving it big talk and being all over the place. Who even knows? You think Ferrari would, but no. So yeah, still some work to do. As impressed as I am with race day Lewis today, because he made a 2-stop really work, which I would have thought would be quite hard to do at this track, where it does mean you have to make some moves, which is not the easiest place to do, especially when they took away one of the overtaking spots. I think they must be thinking, why did we spend so much money getting rid of Sainz, looking at how much work Sainz has been doing in the blue team, which finished just behind them in the constructors. I mean, points-wise, not just behind them, but just position. They've got to be asking some questions, and I'm sure we can have a proper conversation about Hamilton at some point, but I think they would have been second if they had kept their driver lineup, is my hot take, as much as Hamilton is one of the best of all time.
I said it last year, Sainz was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He did nothing wrong, did he, at all in that car? So, but at the same time, and I repeat it again, if a 7-time world champion is on the market, it's hard to sort of look the other way, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You've got to give it a go. Mm-hmm. So I'll use my usual line. That Ferrari's improved so much, they still haven't fixed the problem they had in race 2 that got them disqualified. We've now finished the season, still the same problems. But yeah, no, it's a great drive today for Lewis, but the qualifying, I don't even know. And I said in the watch along yesterday, I mean, it's not even a surprise when he gets knocked out in Q1, or he's struggling to get through now, which is what really jars me. And Hamilton's out again, and then you sort of hear Sky and they're sort of like, oh, this is a disaster. You think, oh, it's the 3rd race in a row now, Crofty. I mean, is it that shocking? Hopefully next year's rules are, because this era has not been a Lewis Hamilton era, has it? He's not like these cars at all, so hopefully for his sake he can find form next year, and maybe this year was just a major blip. But a lot of people probably share your view, to be honest, Stuart, that benefit of a lot of hindsight, I guess, but maybe Sainz was the one to stick with, especially look at the job he did in the second half of the year at Williams, which we'll talk about shortly. But Charles Leclerc, I don't think has done an awful lot wrong this season. No. And I think of the 2 drivers, I think John Elkann should maybe be a bit more grateful for the fact that he's keeping what he is keeping quiet, because if that's what's coming out of his mouth, what isn't he saying? Because there's a lot more stuff he could be saying, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, let's add that to the words of wisdom and all that. But yeah, good drive from Leclerc today, and a great recovery from Hamilton as well. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli down at Mercedes. Russell, a bit no man's land, wasn't he? 25 seconds off Leclerc, 18, 19 clear of Alonso. Never really threatened for a podium. I thought Mercedes might be the curveball this weekend for McLaren, might cause some problems, but they just didn't really have the race pace. So a little bit of a shame that Russell could, because he'd had a great season as well, by the way. George Russell, fantastic season, set himself up very nicely for next year if Mercedes are the team to beat, as people keep telling us they will be. He's got himself in a great position, but just a shame they weren't more competitive today. But it's a 5th place for Russell, more good points, lost a place, but did okay. 44 laps at the end on the hard tyre, by the way, so quite a long final stint, so maybe that's why the pace wasn't there for him come the end. And Antonelli never really recovered. But Abu Dhabi, all right, fine. Hamilton made up 8 places, Hulkenberg 9, but Abu Dhabi isn't the easiest track to pass on, so it was always going to be tough coming through. But to end up 15th, he'll be disappointed, and actually lost his chance to pip Lewis Hamilton to P6, which would have been one hell of a story for the winter. So yeah, a bit disappointed Mercedes weren't more competitive, but I don't think they'll be too disappointed with the result. And to be honest, I don't think they'll be too disappointed with their season. Again, it's not been a Mercedes era, has it? They've struggled quite a bit at times this sort of period of F1. So in the end, not a terrible final season of the regulations for them to take P2 in the Constructors. So, pretty decent. I mean, if Red Bull had a better second driver, then it wouldn't be close, would it? But there you go. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think as Mercedes as being the second best team, but they definitely were, because they this year they were consistent. And I suppose they were consistent today as well. The last few, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. The last few races, it's kind of, you've had this feeling as the weekend's built up that Mercedes have a lot of pace in hand and they could be the dark horse for the race, or at least be the sticking point that gets in the middle of this championship fight between the main players. And then George Russell and Kimi Antonelli has kind of been in some middle, as you say, no man's zone, kind of strong, like significantly faster than most of the pack, but not quite fast enough to be anything like a bother for the people ahead of them. And that's sort of where they've ended up at the end of this season, which is all they really needed to just take this second place. I think they'll look back at this, as you say, these last 4 years and be like, they never really made it work. I think I saw a stat earlier this week, and I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but essentially the weird zero pod car they brought out in the first year of this was sort of the most successful, really, the most brought them home the most good results of any of their years. They definitely couldn't have stuck with it because it was causing their cars to like bounce up and down and break their drivers' spines. But I do find that quite funny after that year of like them really struggling and going in a different direction, it being the wrong direction, and having to redesign their car all the way back to the way everyone else was doing it. It's funny now, we forget about that. That first year, that 2022, everyone had very weird looking cars. That Ferrari had a big old dent in the back, and we've all kind of, I guess, homogenized together as you kind of expect. God knows what we're going to get next year. But yeah, I think Mercedes get a C grade really for this entire era, and I think just benefited from consistency really this year.
John T in chat says advantage locked in for years. We all know who said that. Over on the old social media of Twitter. Yeah, that was a prediction that didn't come true. The zero pod thing was interesting. That is a good point, actually. Yeah, that stat, I saw that as well. More podiums, more points than any other of the Mercedes cars this era, despite the fact it was atrocious. So quite incredible how that works out, really. But there you go. We talked about Alonso. We will talk about Tsunoda and the Norris incident. We'll get to him in just a minute. But we've talked about Aston, haven't we, really? Haas as well. Missed out on the chance to end up in P7. Ollie Bearman, by the way, has been given another penalty post-race. So that's or more penalty points. So that's 10 now for him. So he needs to be very, very careful going into... testing. Can you get penalty points in testing? I suppose you can, but still needs to be steady, does Ollie Bearman. But Haas have been a bit of a surprise this year for me. I think more competitive than I expected, especially when you consider in recent history that team, when you're on the brink of a regulation change, just shut everything down and don't develop the car. To actually see them still competitive at the end of the year and not driving around at the back is actually really nice to see. So really good season for Haas, I think. They'll be disappointed not to get 7th, but I think 8th isn't terrible for them. And like I say, final race for Sauber for now. Audi next year. It's a weird one with Sauber, actually, because again, we've been here before, so Peter Sauber's all ready to take it back if he needs to, I'm sure. Probably sick of being handed it back, actually. But it's emotional because you're losing a name, but the team still exists next year, just under a different name. So it's sad to see the Sauber name go, but the team still exists. So it's a bit of a weird feeling, but I'm really pleased to see they score points in their final race with Hulkenberg in P9. And he made up 9 places, by the way, Stuart did, Hulkenberg, today. So I think the 2-stop, actually, to get some overtaking done seems to have been the way to go. Hamilton and Hulkenberg both starting on the softs, pitting relatively early, then going hard and medium to the end, and they made up places. So clearly the way to go. Good strategy.
Yeah, and I think this year has... It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes a driver will move to a lower end team, or what you expect to be a lower end team, and their stock value will rise dramatically. I think this year has been great for like Hulkenberg's value, as a driver. I mean, God knows what's actually available for him in the next coming years. But yeah, I think Hulkenberg's had an amazing year, and I think um, Ocon's had a decent-ish year, but Bearman, I think, has overall had a very decent year. I think a lot like Antonelli, he took a little while to get into the flow of things. He had a little bit of a dip period sometimes, but and accumulated penalty points like candy. Um, and as you say, he's still got 10 hanging over him right now. But I think and Bortoletto as well. Actually, I think the two drivers in Sauber have had really nice, solid years. Bortoletto, I think, has proven he's going to be here to stay for a few years. I'd love having him in my team. I think Hulkenberg and Bortoletto are going to be great drivers to get the Audi project going. I don't know what we can expect from them. I remember on these race streams, I'm being very worried last year talking to you about Sauber. This is the state Sauber, and what the hell are Audi inheriting when they're coming there with their stature and their money and their big brand and are they going to pick up a 10th place team and try and elevate it to something worthy? But actually, I think Sauber have elevated themselves over the last year, and even though they are ninth, they're only ninth by like a smidgen, like 20 more points, and they could have been sixth. It's been a great year for them, and Haas as well. Not just on the brink of a regulation change dropping everything, but Sauber have traditionally been the team that have so often written off the entire year, a few races in, and been like, well, this isn't the year. I guess we'll focus on next year, whether we're in the middle of a regulation era or not. So yeah, it's been really good to see a lot of consistency from Sauber. They've been scoring points fairly regularly. There are a few races here and there where they didn't get any points, but them and Sauber and Aston and Racing Bulls have all been among it this year, and I've been really enjoying seeing that.
Yeah, it's been fantastic in that midfield. Like you said earlier, it's just chopped and changed so much. Going into each weekend, not knowing who's going to be that fifth best team has been so exciting for a lot of it. Some people find it quite boring talking about midfield, maybe, I don't know, but I love that fight. And because they've been so close and they've closed the gap to the leaders haven't been able to relax in things like Q1 and Q2. They're having to go out for extra runs because all of a sudden the track's improved and Bortoletto's just gone half a second up in the first sector or something, and it suddenly it just means nobody can quite relax. And so I'm really looking forward to next year when there's a 3-second gap back to the last car again, and then it closing up again in 5 years' time and then changing the rules again. But that's F1 for you. Would you like a fun fact, Stuart?
I love a fun fact. Hit me.
Here you go. This is from Pascal. Says Nico Hulkenberg scored 51 points in 2013 with Sauber, and this year he scored 51 points for Sauber.
Okay.
There you go. It's funny how those things work out, but yeah, I agree on everything you said with Sauber there and Haas. I think both teams can be quite happy this year. But like you say, when you look at ninth place, you think, that's still not great from Sauber, but 22 points off Racing Bulls. I mean, that's sixth place, isn't it, like you say? So I think they can be very happy with that and intrigued by what Audi do next season with them. But I agree as well that Hulkenberg and Bortoletto have set them up nicely. And that's been a fun fight, really close, actually, closer than I thought. I think Bortoletto, a lot of people, including me, would maybe give my vote to Hadjar for Rookie of the Year overall. I think he's been fantastic this year. But when you consider who Bortoletto's teammate is, he's done an incredible job against Nico Hulkenberg, particularly in qualifying. So I think he maybe slid under the radar a little bit. So he deserves a lot of credit for his first season, because he was a driver I was quite concerned about this year. But he's delivered. So well done to him. And actually, in terms of delivering, Williams, not a great day today. 13th for Sainz, 16th for Albon. But 137 points and 5th in the Constructors. James Vowles, take a bow, is the first thing to say. And also that lineup clearly delivering. But I mean, on today, just quickly, Sainz 40 laps at the end on the hard tyre. One stopper not quite working. Albon was the other driver to try the two stopper with the softs at the start. Didn't really work for him. He ended up 16th rather than where he qualified, which was 17th. So didn't have the pace today, Williams. That said, maybe being harsh, Sainz was 9/10 off Bearman. And actually, if you work it out, about 2.5 seconds off a point. So maybe actually it's just because that midfield's so close, somebody's got to miss out, haven't they? So actually a really decent drive from him, I suppose, in the end. But fantastic season for Williams, and a season of bizarrely two halves. Alex Albon absolutely crushing it in the first half of the season. Sainz largely being dominated by his teammate, and then second half of the season it's flipped on its head. Carlos Sainz has crushed it in the second half of the season, and Albon's been a bit off colour compared to Carlos Sainz. So it's quite a strange season. I sort of feel like, what if Williams, both drivers have been delivering all season? Could they have scared the shit out of Ferrari for P4 in the end? I mean, it's ifs and buts and all that, but, aim high, yeah, but really happy for Williams. Great to see. I think more points than they've scored since 2014, I think. So, an incredible season, and just a shame they couldn't finish with points, but I think James Vowell's got some big plans for that team and some big ambitions, so I'm excited for what we've got next year and beyond, especially if that Mercedes engine is the one to beat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're all waiting to see which team makes the best use of that engine. No points today for Williams, but they didn't need them because they'd already locked in fifth by the last race, which they should all be very proud about. You kind of saw this coming, didn't you? Last year, the improvements James Vowell's making, the serious restructures and changes in the way that team had been running, because that team had sort of been running like an old family business that was running with the few pennies they had in their pockets, which is no way to develop and move forward and be a serious operation. And we were all kind of sad to see things move into shareholders' hands and the family to move out of that team. But actually, it's been left in very good hands. It seems to be taking it very seriously. And James Vowell has seemed a competent and steady hand on that ship. And now we're seeing the results. And I'd love to see them kind of moving, in the way McLaren have. McLaren had some, dark periods, maybe not quite as in the doldrums, but, they had some tricky periods. And I think Williams can be more than capable of getting themselves up there again and mixing it up, as I think a lot of the teams are now. I think we're living in a bit of a golden era now where I am not worried about any of the teams, particularly that, go back a few years and there'd always be a team at the bottom that would have no money and was like scoring no points. And Williams was one of those teams. There was a time when I was like, are we going to lose Williams at some point? Because they cannot keep running like this. It's going to fall off a cliff and they're not going to be able to get any sponsors and they're not going to score any points. But, I think we're in a nice, secure period now where teams can make a difference. And even if you are Alpine finishing last, that doesn't mean all hope is lost. So yeah, very, very happy for Williams. And I think Sainz did an interview this weekend where he did speak about, basically being dumped by Ferrari, but he had spoken to James Vowell and he was very, very confident through having that conversation, having that factory tour, that this was a place that was up and coming and was going to prove itself. So I'm glad he was able to read that. And I'm glad maybe it took him a little while to find his feet there, but I am glad he does now seem to be the Carlos Sainz that we do know, because I was a little bit worried at the beginning of the year, as I'm sure all of us were. Yeah. And if both of those drivers, if we have Sainz and Albon, but just both hitting it big, who knows? Next year could be amazing.
I hope so. And obviously Alpine as well, by the way. Mercedes engines next year. So if they get the chassis right, maybe they can jump up. But yeah, I mean, they were cut well adrift, weren't they, this year? We'll talk about them in a moment. But I think Williams, great season. I'm like you, optimistic for them and every team. And I don't think anybody's in trouble. And that's good to see, because I remember the days of Manor and HRT and Lotus that became Caterham or whatever they were. That every year they were in trouble, weren't they? So it's nice to not have to worry about that. So I'm I don't know. I'm hoping Williams can do a McLaren, but that still feels a long way off. But then, like I said earlier, I didn't think McLaren would ever get back to it. So there you go. It can happen. They can't tell when Sean's being sarcastic or not. No, it's just my tone. Sorry, Inca. I'm just generally a very sarcastic person. Yuki Tsunoda then. Probably the biggest controversy, if you want to go that far, in the race was Yuki Tsunoda weaving, the stewards felt, on the straight. More than one change of direction forced Lando, again the stewards felt, to go off track and pass him. A weird moment when the investigation came up and said noted for more than one change of direction, and then Lando was noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. And I said it on the watch along. I said you can't you can't give a penalty out for forcing another driver off track and then give the driver who was forced off track a penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. And it just also, they just seem to contradict themselves. There was a Stewart's decision that's come in. I did screenshot it, so I'll have to get the phone, I'm afraid. Sorry. Very unprofessional, sure. Very unprofessional. Stewart said that they reviewed all the information, blah, blah, blah. Norris overtook car 22, Yuki Tsunoda, off track. However, this occurred because the driver of car 22 made multiple moves defending his position against car 4. Had car 22 not made those moves, car 4 would have overtaken it without going off track, but moved off track to avoid contact with car 22. Further, the driving standards guidelines, eye roll, provide that if a car is forced off, which was effectively what occurred here, it is not considered to have exceeded track limits. So whilst technically the overtake took place off track, I know what the technically is there for, it did take place off track, we determined in the view of the above to take no further action. So essentially, because Tsunoda, they felt forced Norris off track, Norris was going to get past anyway, they feel like under the racing guidelines, under the regulations, that was all fair game. It caused a bit of a stir in chat. Some people felt it should have been a penalty for Norris anyway, because whether he was forced off there or not, he still gained an advantage being off track. I wondered, because he hadn't been pinged for track limits, if it was because he hadn't actually gone over the white line, but now I've seen that decision, it makes sense that doesn't count as a track limits violation, so that'll be why he wasn't pinged for that. So what was your view of that, Stuart, apart from the fact that Yuki Tsunoda ain't no Sergio Perez when it comes to defending?
Yeah, I think the stewards got it right. I did hum and ha a little bit about the off-track pass, and it actually took the replays before I was sure he had gone off track, because it's quite tricky. It was quite tricky from the initial blur of footage as it was running live what had actually happened. I did note him weaving, because when we were going out live, we were watching it from Yuki Tsunoda's rear-facing camera, and you could tell he was kind of weaving a bit to either block or break the toe for Norris. And I was like, I'm wondering about that. And then as soon as it cut to the outside shot and Norris was off the track, it had my hand in my heart, because as I said earlier, I didn't want the championship to come down to some silly incident. But yeah, I think that I think it was clear Norris was significantly faster down that straight than Yuki, and would have passed him had he been left space, which he would have been if Yuki had picked a defensive direction and stuck to it, which he didn't. So I think it's fair to say that Norris didn't particularly breach, especially as he was forced over. Like Yuki was weaving and then just kept going as soon as Norris picked a side to go for. And also, this is like a rare occasion this year, and this could be an hour's discussion, but this is a rare occasion this year where the stewards have actually like used some sort of common sense and actually assessed the circumstances on its own merits, rather than look at the the racing guidelines, which are only meant to be guidelines, and just read them as like the letter of the law, and like, well, his wheel was next to his mirror and off the track, but like in the braking zone and at the apex, which was cool. Which was driving me mad. Like we were getting sort of like robots to assess on track action, and I think Sainz particularly was getting particularly annoyed by it, rather than just actually looking at the situation as it had happened, and had somebody been forced off track, what the actual circumstances that had meant. I think the real thing that it came to head was that Brazil race where Piastri got done for sort of who was on his outside at that point?
Antonelli and Leclerc.
Antonelli,
yeah.
where Oscar was, for all intents and purposes, he was locking up a bit, but he was in control. He was as far as over as he could be, and he still got done for it, because by the letter of the driving standards, he should have backed out for some reason. So I think it was a situation where yes, Lando was off track. Yes, Lando did complete an overtake, including being off track alongside Yuki. But the circumstances that led him to be there were such that it wasn't worth a penalty. So I'm actually glad that, that sort of some sensible heads took a look at the whole situation properly. And I hope we see more of that. I hope we get something out of that drivers' meeting that was had before. I think it was before Qatar. Um, and stewards are able to take a little bit more of a human approach to judging these things, because um, taking things to the letter of how they're written is how you get like people dive bombing their way to the apex and just assuming the other guy will move out of the way or face a penalty, which was some of the situation we were getting to. Yeah, so that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I still, I know Jonty disagrees, but I still to this day that penalty for Piastri should never have been a penalty for Piastri. Certainly not 10 seconds. That was very harsh, but and how costly could that have proven to? I don't think in the end it would have mattered. What would it have been? I might have done. No, could have actually, I suppose. Yeah, no. Would have made the finale even more tense, I guess. But yeah, no, I don't disagree on that. I think, when Norris went, I wasn't sure what the rule was, because when Norris went off, I thought, yeah, all right, fine, Yuki's forced him into that position is how the stewards view it. But at the same time, he has still passed off track, which is still a big no-no in racing. So I thought maybe they could have ordered him to give the position back, but then are they risking getting too involved? Are they a bit squeaky bum time in the steward's office, given what's happened in the past in season finales? I don't know, but I feel like that was probably about right. The bit I didn't understand though is Yuki was investigated for more than one change of direction, but his penalty was for forcing another driver off track. So I don't know quite how that, whether that was just a miscommunication or something, because that's two different investigations, isn't it? So I'm just...
It was the other way around.
The other way around, yeah, sorry. So I wasn't quite sure why they did that, but I also wasn't quite sure what's... I asked the chat this and we didn't really know, but when it comes to weaving, where's the line between breaking the toe and more than one change of direction? I'm not trying to say it wasn't a penalty. It was a penalty, but is there something in the regulations that you know of, Stuart, that is like, if you are this many car lengths back, it's breaking the toe, but if you're within this, it's weaving? Or is it just going to be taken on a incident by incident basis and it's all Stuart's discretion? Because I'm not sure if we've ever had anything on that. Because Yuki might argue he was trying to break the toe. He wasn't. But
no, and it's a weird one, isn't it? Because a certain amount of weaving to break the toe has generally been sort of given a blind eye, let's say. And we've seen it in Formula 1, Formula 2, and everything as well. Like it's given a bit of leeway. I feel like the phrase "forcing a car off track" was more accurate, which is what he was investigated for. And also, the stewards were doing a different thing where they've noted an incident and then they've updated the notice to say what the actually the incident is being noted about, which happened today. And I think if you read the Yuki steward's notes, it does say that he made a number of changes of direction, which ultimately resulted in Lando having to go off track to avoid a collision. So I think it was the fact that Lando had committed to a move around his left side, and then Yuki moved over again on him, is what I'm assuming is. But yeah, I do know what you mean. It does seem like a strange. I think they should have just stuck to the forcing a driver off track, I guess. I don't know. Either way, the larger block of text of the reason makes sense to me. So whatever you kind of categorize it under isn't as important. Are you surprised that Yuki went so hard as the team player against Lando, considering he had been fired? He wasn't like, fighting for his seat or just playing nicey to make sure that they look after him long term. Like he's already gone from that team. He didn't have to do more than he was asked.
If he'd have been kept for next year, he would have gone harder. a hell of a lot harder. I think he would have sent it back up the inside of turn 6 like Checo did. I think there'd have been a squabble down to turn 9. So I was a little bit. I think I made the sort of a partially flippant comment on the race watch along that if I'd just been fired, I wouldn't want to help that team at all. So I was a little bit surprised that Yuki went not all in, but as aggressive as he did. But I keep saying it wasn't aggressive enough from a Red Bull point of view, but then at the same time, what was he supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? Like, I can see why I be critical, or why others might be like, oh, why wasn't he as hard as Checo? What was he supposed to do? I mean, his alternative was shove Lando in the wall, which he kind of tried in a way, I suppose, because that car he's not very good in that car. He's had a shocking season. It's not like 2021 Sergio Perez, the comparison I keep making. That was in a car that was much better for the second driver. Sergio was having a really good first season with Red Bull. He played the team game. He was there, wasn't he? Whereas Yuki was sort of plodding around in the midfield, not really doing an awful lot. I raised an idea yesterday, which will upset some people, I'm sure. But if I'd have been Red Bull, I'd have slightly underfueled Yuki for the race and made him racier, and then just retired him at the end when he ran out of fuel, because he could have then maybe got involved a little bit more rather than trundling in the midfield. Because you look at talking about if Norris drops to 4th, Piastri can let Leclerc and Norris go, and Norris still wins the title. Max Verstappen lacks that option of having a teammate there to help him. So I'd have maybe not compromised Yuki's qualifying quite as much, and had him up there and then underfueled him for the race to make him more racy. Even if it means retiring him, it doesn't matter, does it? They've going to finish no higher or no lower. But I don't know whether I don't think there's any rule that says you can't do that. I mean, they underfuel the cars anyway, don't they? So what's an extra 10 laps out of the tank? Just a theory.
No, I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do if you're willing to go all in on one side of the garage.
It's cheesy.
They're a cheesy team sometimes. They're more willing to delve into the cheese. I mean, I think Yuki did as much as he could and more once he was asked. I mean, I said out loud to people I was watching the race with on the start of that lap, which is just after he'd sort of been given the what to do thing. I was like, well, what's he going to do? Lando's 4/10 behind him, and he's going to be past him before they even get to the braking zone. What could he possibly do? And I guess we saw what he could do. Quite a lot, it turns out.
Yeah, it was very much. Do you like barriers, Lando? Because that's all he had. Like you say, what could he do? But difference in pace, obviously on the new tyres and stuff. But yeah, I'll save. I was going to ask you about Yuki, but we'll save that until we get to the little Q&A at the end that we do. So I'm sure someone in chat will ask. So, but Yuki's final race went out in a whimper. I guess sums this season up, and I feel bad saying that because Yuki seems like a really lovely guy. He is going to stay on as reserve at Red Bull, and hopefully he'll get a race seat. Somebody somewhere will pick him up to go racing, I'm sure, in another series. So good luck to Yuki. We'll talk about the Red Bull driver situation, I'm sure, in the Q&A in a bit. Let's fly through these last couple of teams. I was aiming for an hour. You'll be unsurprised to hear, Stuart, that things haven't changed that much on this new channel because we're over by 13 minutes. To run through the field, I mean, for an hour, we're over by 13 minutes. So, classic. But Racing Bulls...
It's been worse.
It has been much worse. Racing Bulls, Hadjar 17th, Lawson 18th. Lawson got a penalty. In fact, I think he was investigated a few times for one reason or another, actually. He got a penalty for... Gasly got track limits. What did Lawson get? Albon got speedy in the pit lane. Oh, where's me? I had a list here of all the penalties and I've lost them. Lawson got a penalty for driving erratically. There we go. I got there in the end. Up against Ollie Bearman, I believe, again. So 17th and 18th for those two. I have nothing to say. I mean, Hadjar 2/10 off Albon is about as exciting as it got. Racing Bulls have dropped off a little bit, it's felt, over the last few races. So shame to see that, but I think Hadjar's not too worried. He's got himself a what they're officially calling a promotion, but some might argue it's a demotion, given how things have gone in that seat. We'll see. Pierre Gasly 19th, Colapinto 20th. Gasly got a penalty for track limits, and Colapinto was there. Alpine just Alpining their way to the end of the season. And yeah. what do you want me to say about Alpine, Stuart? They were crap again. But yeah, they're the last two teams. I don't know if you got anything you notes that you wanted to say about Racing Bulls or Alpine.
I mean, for this race particularly, no, not really. They were there, weren't they? I don't think they were, for Alpine especially, everything was wrapped up, and I think they were all I think they've been ready to go home for about 4 months. To be honest, I'm glad we got to see, and I'm talking kind of seasonally, definitely not today, the wondrousness of Isack Hadjar. I think he had or Isack Hadjar, however you want to call him, this season. I think he had a lovely growth. Obviously had that bad Australia, but from then on he's looked really racy, really great, outperforming the car, I think. Glad he got promoted, with the kind of asterisk that I hope Red Bull don't destroy him the way they've destroyed so many young talents. I hope he can gel well with that team and not kind of wither in the shadow of Max Verstappen. So looking forward to that. Alpine, Mercedes engine next year. I think they've just been looking forward for a long time now. It's going to be weird that Alpine, Renault are gone, but their sort of mark is still there in Alpine. I hope they can sort of wing it back. We've seen teams come back from worse. They still had a decent haul of points. They managed to get into it occasionally. Pierre Gasly, not today, but every so often would be a sort of front-running guy challenging for like 10 or more points sometimes, and then would just disappear back to the doldrums. So I hope Pierre Gasly gets the ride he deserves. But overall, I am looking forward next year to Alpine having Mercedes engines, Cadillac having Ferrari engines, Haas being having a Toyota as their title sponsor, but also having Ferrari engines. It's going to be very weird.
Especially if that carries on to 27 and Audi do a runner and we end up with Audi, Sauber, Ferrari. Just to
know it.
That'd be quite funny. I guess one question I suppose on Alpine, which I'll throw it to chat as well, yes or no. And this is nothing against Franco. I actually quite like Franco Colapinto. I think his fans could be a bit crackers sometimes, but I think he seems really cool and he seems like he's got speed. But do you think the swapping doing for Colapinto thing worked out?
I mean, we'll never true. I mean, he didn't get any points.
No.
Would Durham have got more points? It's hard to say. I mean, all of Alpine's points, as far as let me just double check that. Yeah, all of Alpine's points are like Pierre Gasly occasional masterclasses. But I don't know. I think in the same way that we don't know that Liam Lawson wouldn't have been able to get more used to that Red Bull car and actually get more regular points and be up there and any better than Yuki Tsunoda would have liked. We just don't know, but I think we knew the writing was on the wall for doing anyway, well before the season started, and the teams are going to do what they want to do. Kind of a big shame for Doohan. I feel like they put him through the emotional ringer, which he didn't need to do, like giving him an F1 seat and then taking it away and having that hanging over his head, because people were asking him like from winter testing onwards, like, do you think you'll still have a seat after like 5 races? Do you think, are you going to be replaced by Colapinto? What's going on with you and Colapinto? Like, that's a rough start to a career. So I do feel bad for him. My feelings about Flavio Briatore are not secret. I don't like the man, but on a secondary level, I think the era of the kind of hard-nosed, give no crap, like emotionless businessman team principal is over, as I kind of discussed with us, kind of move towards more technical, more managerial style team boss who actually is more of a people person and more involved in things. I think that's over. And I just think those kind of, same with Helmut Marko as well. I think both of them are kind of not well suited to these kind of decisions, and I think are detrimental to their drivers and to the team sometimes. And I think I hope Renault can manage their not Renault, Alpine are able to manage their situation going forward a little bit better than they have been doing, because otherwise Who knows? Another name change coming up for that team. They could be anything at this point. They don't even have Renault engines. They could be called Apple. Maybe Apple will buy them.
Oh no. Formula X. Elon Musk gets involved. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's the last thing we need.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing to do an argument, would he have been better than Colapinto? Doohan did get a whole pre-season, which may have benefited him towards the end of the year. Like you say, we'll never really know. But I will say, if that Alpine was always going to be a bad car, they weren't expecting much from the second driver anyway. Colapinto bought a lot of money and a big fan base, so from a business point of view, it did make a lot of sense. And I hope that Colapinto, because in some ways I feel for him, because he never got a pre-season at Williams. He was thrown in at the deep end to get on with it. Same at Alpine, at least with a winter and a pre-season, new regulations, maybe that'll be the making of him next year. So I'm still hopeful, because I think Colapinto has got speed. He doesn't always put it all together on a race weekend, but I think he's got speed, so I'm hopeful he can do a good job next season. But Pierre Gasly's a tough teammate to beat, that's for sure. So and I agree with you on the team principle thing. I mean, look at the perceived difference that having Laurent Mekies in charge at Red Bull made. His engineering background probably helped them to find some of the problems with the car they had that maybe helped to turn it around. I think Yuki was better under Laurent than he was under Horner. I don't think he got full backing that he maybe needed, but I think he seems to get more support from Mekies than he did from I will pronounce Mekies 3 different times, by the way, because I can never get it right. It's Mekies or Mekies or John. So I tend to agree with that one, which in some ways, losing that old school hard-nosed thing is sad, but also it's nice to see team principles maybe not being fix your fucking car like a knob. Although I still expect Christian Horner at Alpine, by the way, sooner rather than later. That's my hot take, I guess.
Yeah, I don't like Christian Horner either. So it has been quite delightful watching him begging his way around the paddock, looking for a new job, calling everyone up. Someone must like me. Take me, please. That's been quite amusing for me as a non-Christian Horner fan. I think one last thing I'll say on the Alpine thing and the Colapinto doing whatever it is. I don't think it cost them anything.
No.
Like, it's not like, Red Bull didn't gain for, their teammate, but it wasn't like they lost a place in the championship. If they'd had 2 Gaslys, they still would have come 10th. They needed over 3 Gaslys to reach Sauber. So they were able to get away with swapping their driver out to get more money from the sponsors or whatever. That's fine. I'm glad we seem to be moving away as well from an era where we've just putting in like rich kids who don't have any talent into the car. We don't have as much of that. I think the field is very strong at the moment. I think the rookies have generally been pretty strong for a while. I think we're in quite a good position now in terms of that. Yeah, we are getting less of these kind of like people who are just there for their sort of money rather than their talent. I'm sure we can name a couple of people who might be there for those reasons, but generally speaking, I think we're seeing less of that, which I'm also enjoying. I think this rookie class field has been pretty great, and I'm expecting Limbad as well to add to that. Just one rookie next year, despite there being 2 new seats available.
Yeah. It's a good point. Pay drivers are less needed now, aren't they? Because there's so much sponsorship now in F1, so that helps. Teams like Williams don't need a pay driver, for example, anymore because of sponsors. The pot's bigger now, isn't it? We'll go back to the pie. The pie's bigger, and everyone gets a bigger gets the same slice, but a bigger amount. So there's a bit more filling in it. So yeah. Apparently, Nick says it's McKees, so I should remember him as where are my keys? I can't find my keys. There we go. I've lost my keys. That'll do.
That's good. It works. McKees, yeah.
Should we do? Because it's been a while. Should we do driver of the day? I think that's a great idea. One surname, chat. Who are you going with? We'll do some shout outs in a minute. We'll read some of yours out. Who was your driver of the day? We'll do driver of the season in December at some point. But yeah, driver of the day. As always, you can go first, Stuart. I'll put you right on the spot because I'm just that generous.
Thanks. I was just looking at the drivers there and just seeing what they all did. I mean, I think I can't really give it to Max. I think he had a solid race, but not like, anything like sort of amazing and death defying. There are sometimes I've given it to him when he's just been like in a class of his own. I think I can't give it to Hamilton, even though he won up 9 places. I'm almost tempted to give it to Hulkenberg for coming 9 places up the field and making a 2-stop work. Can I do that? I don't. I'm going to give it to Hulkenberg. I think, sometimes you got to give a Sauber driver his credit, and I think he drove a great race today, and I think he'll be otherwise underlooked. So yeah, why not? Suck it, Lando. You've had enough spotlight today.
I'm going to give it to Stoffel Van Dorn. Because if he hadn't graciously moved out of the way for Lando Norris to have his seat, then Lando wouldn't be world champion. There you go. That's a reach for you. I think Leclerc deserves a nod. I think he was really good today, but then 5th to 4th, is that all that exciting? It's a bit like a bit like you, that nobody's really put in a wow performance today. There've been some very good drives, but nobody's maybe go, oh my god, that was incredible. So, but I am going to go Verstappen.
Okay, yeah.
Not just because he won, but because I need to console myself. At least if he won the race and got driver of the day, he was the real winner today. That's screw you, Lando. I think he actually drove really well. I think it wasn't anything special, but he had the race controlled. He made the move on Piastri. I know he was on fresher tyres, but he made the move on Piastri when he needed to. That could have got messy, and I think he did a good job at controlling things. I think nothing really else to add. It felt not as dominant as 2023, but it did feel like a very Max Verstappen 2023-esque drive. He took pole, he led, he won, which does actually mean now that the last 11 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix have all been won from pole. Don't say it's not exciting.
Yeah. Although I will say it was more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be proper processional, and actually there was some stuff going on that was good. You talking about Max Verstappen has reminded me, they ended up in this weird situation where, because of the sort of the format that dominated things, in that Lando had won the championship, so they spent a lot of time focusing on him once he got out of the car. They didn't interview Verstappen or Piastri at all.
Did they not?
Unless I completely missed it. Like the camera followed Norris around until he'd calmed down enough to stop hiding in his helmet. They interviewed Norris on the grid as world champion, and Piastri and Verstappen had shuffled off and disappeared. And the next time we saw them, they were sitting on the sofa. And then they interviewed Norris again on the podium, but again, it was just him. The rest of them had buggered off somewhere. So yeah, they didn't get to talk to them at all, which I thought was a shame, because I think they all had interesting stories to tell, and they both could have talked about their season and how things had gone. I thought, I haven't been a fan of this format of them trying to interview them all at the same time, because it doesn't work, and they end up just whoever's not on the focus end up chatting to each other, and it's all a bit weird. But F1 do keep trying to change things for no apparent reason. I found that interesting. Yeah, but I mean, obviously you focus on Norris, but it is a shame the other two managed to get away.
Yeah, because you focus on Norris because he's just won the championship, but Max has still won the race and Piastri still finished second. So there still should be some sort of interview, even if it's just a briefer interview. Just a quick, how was that, Max? And then, because he's going to go, oh yeah, we did all we could, maximise strategy, we tried, congratulations, Lando, and then you just move on to Piastri. He says more or less the same, and then you focus on Norris. I feel like there should still be recognition of the fact that Max has won a race, or Piastri had won a race if he'd won it, or whoever. I think that should still be recognised because it was a Grand Prix. I suppose, is it possible to separate the season and the title decider from each other as a Grand? Difficult, isn't it? I suppose, but I get why they were focused on Norris. But I agree, it would have been. It's a bit weird to me. I didn't know they hadn't. But hey ho, F1. Probably trying to rage bait people again. Valentine went with Max Verstappen for driver of the day. Kaori went with OJP. Is that Oscar Piastri? I assume. Golf Balls goes with Stoff. Fritzer says Leclerc. Lee says Max. Fud says gotta be Max. Pete says Leclerc. Fanta Boy says Leclerc. Kevin finds Stoff hilarious. Professional Moron says Leclerc for being a red menace. Fair enough. Ayinka says after McCracken, we've now got McKees. Yeah. Michael, I said Max. Nick went with Hamilton. I'm a little disappointed Cadillac's driver lineup says Neelish. We'll come to that shortly. Baloney says Hamilton. Tadeo says Lewis 17 to P8. That's fair. Etapal says Leclerc. Honourable mention for Alonso. Yeah, I think that's a good shout from Pete there. P6 today. And actually, to be fair, very quickly on Alonso, didn't back the pack up like we thought he might, did he? So that was
Very
good
true.
to see. He was quick, so that's good to see. But so Lewis Hamilton gets my vote, says Kaori. Leclerc made his Ferrari forget it's a Ferrari, says Red Raven. Hulkenberg for Pascal, P18 to P9. Kevin's very excited because I had a drink on camera. Stewie, Alonso, good race to be fair. Neelish says Leclerc. Ayika says Lando for the great overtakes and holding his nerves. That's a fair point as well, actually. He could have sat behind those drivers and just made sure he banked P3, couldn't he? But he still made the moves. Lewis says Lewis Hamilton. Alonso looked like he belonged up there battling for a podium for a bit, says the Stig. And take care, Pete. Pete's gone to have dinner. Take care, Pete, mate. Thank you very much if you're still here. Leclerc, Alonso. Let's see if there's anybody else who has put another name in there. Verstappen is the new Schumacher. Can't wait for the next Alonso, says a Yinka. Fair enough. I like that. I think, Lando didn't get flustered, says Kenny, after dropping back at the start. Did exactly what he needed to do to secure the championship. Good drive. I don't think there's anything controversial in there. So they are your drivers today. So if you've got any questions, now's your time to throw them. I know you've not spoken to Stuart for quite a while, so I'm sure you'll have lots of questions for him, like, where have you been? What have you been up to? What have for dinner? But yeah, please do get your questions in and we'll answer a few of them. But just some thoughts on Lando wrapping the title up. I think I'm quite excited about next year and how he tries to defend that. Could be really fun if the field is going to be quite close at the front, which I hope it will be, but I suspect it won't be. But I think, again, I said it earlier, over the course of the season, whoever won today, I think, would have been a worthy champion. So disappointed as a Verstappen fan, in pieces as a Ferrari fan. I've given up on them for now. They can do one till January. But very happy for Lando for getting that wrapped up. And it's, whilst they will always be the rival team as a Ferrari fan to me because of the Schumacher-Hakkinen era and whatnot, I am actually really pleased to see McLaren consistently at the front now, and hopefully they can carry that on next year, because when McLaren and Ferrari, and let's throw Williams in there as well, are winning and doing well, F1 just feels right. So there you go.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, I started watching in the when McLaren, Ferrari, and Williams were the top three, were the ones to beat, were the powerhouses, and that's kind of ebbed and flowed a lot over the last 20, 25 years. So it's kind of interesting to see them all percolating back up to the top-ish. They're really still in the top half of the teams now. And I do also, someone brought up when you were going through drives of the day that we didn't really acknowledge the fact that Lando had to push his way through traffic to make his strategy work and stay secure. And I had written that down, but forgotten to acknowledge that, because when they did that first round of pit stops, I was like, oh my God, there's basically the entire field ahead of him as one big train. How's he going to deal with this? But shot through, like, aggressive, precise. I was really impressed. He didn't just get bogged down in the middle of it like a Vitaly Petrov situation. So if you're going to put him as driver of the day, I would say, he definitely earned it by, like, grabbing it with both hands. As he has done a lot this season. I'm glad he's world champion, because he has done a lot of good things this season. He has shown great form, and agreed. Next year will be interesting, with perhaps the pressure of, he knows he's achieved the thing he wants to achieve, and now he can just see how far he can take it, rather than it being something that remains out of reach. He's sort of done a lot in the last couple of years because he hadn't won a race until last year, and then it's all just kind of ramped up from there. Really, I guess you could say the same for Piastri, but Piastri's new. He hasn't been spending 7 years building to this point. He sort of managed to hit the ground a bit more running. But again, next year we have no idea what the pecking order will be. Do you think he'll take the number one?
I get it's difficult because the 4 is very much his brand. It makes up the A in Lando, doesn't it? When he does all his branding and that. But also he's got his quadrant brand, so quad 4. So maybe he might be tempted to keep it from a really boring business PR point of view. But at the same time, I think, like Verstappen, he's a racer, and I think that number one will mean a hell of a lot to him, so I'd like to think he will. I can also imagine that whilst I'm sure they won't force him into a decision, McLaren, from a PR point of view, would quite like the number one on a McLaren again. So there might be a conversation had there. I'd like to think he will, because I know a lot of people hate that drivers drop their main number for the number one. People didn't like Max going from 33 to number one, but I think if you win the World Championship, you should have number one on your car somewhere. In fact, I'd go as far as to say I think that should be the rule. If you win the championship, you have to have the number one. But then are we going to back in the days? Do you remember the days, Stuart, when it was you were numbered based on constructors' finishing position unless you had the world champion, which is why in 97 Arrows had a number one on their car because they had Damon Hill, who was the world champion. Which seems weird, Arrows having a number one on their car.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hope he does. Do you think he'd go with 1 or 4 or change his number even?
It's tricky. Oh, I don't think he changed his number. I think he's attached. It does become trickier these days. And I do think the number one is very important. And I think it would be good to have it on the World Championship driver's car. But you do, I mean, like branding and business in that is all one thing. But you do start to just associate the number with the driver. It does sort of seem to become like a bit of a part of them, which is why I'm a bit torn about this talk of Verstappen giving up his 33 to get the 3 that he wanted in the first place. If he's allowed to take that off Ricciardo, who should have it for next year. And I get that that's the number he really wants, but like I feel like 33 is his number now. I feel like it's like associated with him. So it'd be weird if he changed it up. So in the same way, it'd be weird to have a Lando that's not number 4, but maybe he'll sort of keep it for his branding and he'll be like number 4 in his heart, but number 1 as the champion on the car. Yeah. Like he'll carry the number 1, but he'll be sort of driver number 4 for as long as he's racing. But just not in his race number. You know what I mean? Like he'll keep the branding and all that.
I mean, he's only got it for one season because Leclerc's winning it next year, because next year is Ferrari's year, of course. So he's only got it for one season anyway. So what's the point? You know?
It would be a shame to miss out and never have it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Lewis didn't take the number 1, but he had already had the chance to have number 1 on his car. So, you know, I do wonder if he'd have kept the 44 if he'd never been number 1. I think he probably would have taken it.
So I'll do some questions. I can't just randomly. I can't imagine Verstappen with number 3 on his car, even though he used to have 2 of them on there. It still doesn't sit right with me. And hey, who knows? Daniel Ricciardo could yet return. You know what he's like.
Like Sauber.
Yeah, like Sauber. He'll be back. Kaori says, pertinent question. Do you prefer I switch my subscription for the other channel to this one? Love you, but I'm not paying for both. So membership should. I should be able to activate them after this stream, because I believe we've gone through the watch time for super chats and memberships. We're still a little way off 1,000 watch time hours off the full monetization at 150 subs, so we still need to do that for that. But I think tentative answer or cautious answer is, without giving too much away, if you switch your membership to this channel when it's available, I will definitely get that. Is how I'm going to word
wink.
That. Wink. Wink, wink. That definitely comes to me. So I would prefer it if you did that, but if you wanted to stay a member over there, that's not a problem, Kaori. But thank you for your amazing support as always. Thank you very much. You are number 1 as well in the top fans in chat at the moment. So just so you know, you're beating Michael and Max for the final crown of the season. There you go. That's a thing now, Stuart. Do you care? I'm not sure they do. I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, I noticed it when I was chatting on a stream once, because it's very rare I'm on a live thing because I always forget that things happen. But yeah, and then I was nice and early, and these numbers started popping up, and I didn't know what was going on, and I felt like an idiot asking. I was like crown number 2 or whatever, and what is happening? What has become of me?
Thomas, Channel OG, says, have you talked about how this is the first time since Nico Rosberg that the world champion has less wins than the second place man? There you go. So Norris has fewer wins than Max Verstappen. Norris has 7, Verstappen has 8.
Not for the first time, is it?
Since Rosberg was the last one, apparently.
Yeah. God. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I could tell you some of the times when it's been the other way around. Like Hamilton won his first title with less wins as well, I think. Massa pipped him on that. I mean, that title could change. Who knows with all the goings on. I feel fine because I think consistency is also an important part. You know, it's not one race, it's 24 races. It's a whole, you have to like put an entire season together, and you can't just, you know, you can't fall on your ass for 16 races and then do 8 wins and expect the title, which, you know, if Bernie had got his way and medals were how you decided races, that's the way things would have gone. But I do think you have to be consistent and deliver race on race as much as possible. Although I was thinking this morning, because I think they were talking about like old championships. No, I didn't. I watched a video about like when the all of the championships that went to a 3-way decider, and of course in the early days, not all of the races counted, only your best races counted. And I was like, oh, that would be interesting to do again. But then I quickly thought, no, that's going to be a nightmare, because the amount of work you have to do to work out what the combinations are for winning the title in the final race, I would have a hernia. So I'm glad not for that. But I thought that is an interesting idea, that you sort of just reward the best of what you can deliver. But I wouldn't like it in reality.
You'd have to listen to a lot of Crofty explaining that, and that's too much for anybody, ladies and gentlemen. Valentine says, Zach Brown seems to keep hanging on to the papaya rules. Would this make McLaren less interesting for drivers with a mentality like Max? Yeah, I'd imagine. If you want to be number one in a team and McLaren won't offer you that number one status, then you're not going to go there. So I'm not saying Verstappen needs to be number one in his team. I think he could beat anybody in any team. But, you know, Max is used to having a team pretty much built around him. Is he going to go somewhere where he has to play equal status to a Piastri or a Norris? But then I feel like F1, maybe it sounds ridiculous given Max has just won 8 races this season and is a 4-time world champion, given what's happened at Red Bull. But I do feel like the days of number ones and number twos is certainly not what it used to be. There doesn't necessarily seem to be a clear number one at every team, outside of obviously Aston Martin, where Stroll is number one. But yeah, you know what I mean? The Schumacher era was very number one, number two. I know Hakkinen and Coulthard were allowed to race, but I always, when I look back at that, and maybe it's because I have all the information now, but Hakkinen always felt like the number one driver there, even though they raced fairly and evenly and whatnot. It doesn't feel quite as 1 and 2 as it used to, but I guess if you're Max Verstappen, you want to be the number one, you're not going to go to McLaren if they won't let you have that, are you? But then if they've got the best car, got to beat everybody somehow, haven't you? So I think the converse side to that is, I think if you're someone like Max Verstappen, or if you're someone who's out there to win and you think you're the best, I don't think you'd care. I think you'd go to McLaren, even if you're replacing Piastri. So, you know, if you're of the belief that Norris is their guy, their golden child, which, you know, a lot of people are. If you're Max Verstappen, I think you go there and you would just assert yourself and become number one. You would just take it by virtue of your talent. You would assume you're going to go out there, you're going to outperform Norris, and you're going to be the number one driver, and you wouldn't even have to be asked to move over, because you would. I think, you know, weighing the two of them up, you have no idea how Verstappen would be in that car. It might not suit him at all, but you'd assume that Verstappen would at least take him to task somewhat. So I think if you are that kind of driver, even if you're a Schumacher, whoever, I think you would be happily confident that you could win on merit. And I think you'd be glad there were fire rules at McLaren, because you wouldn't, even if Norris is the golden child, they would give you the opportunity to beat him. You wouldn't have to like be subservient in that team. Yeah. and Max Verstappen, I guess, to argue my own point, is to argue against my own point, is he's the kind of driver who probably has the confidence to beat anybody in any car. So, have you seen the headline from Reuters, by the way?
I don't think so.
I'll read it to you. Jonty sent it to me. Mentally fragile, cocky, a privileged Gen Z kid bankrolled by a wealthy father, F1 champ Lando Norris makes his critics eat their words. What a fucking headline. Wow.
Okay.
Again, it's not a brag, but having met and spoken to Lando Norris quite a few times, he's not cocky. He's certainly not your typical little rich kid at all. But that kind of headline for a somebody's just won a world championship. That feels like something you do middle of the summer when you need some clicks to get yourself through the winter. To get some clicks, you analyse the driver. This is how he proved his critics wrong, not just Lando Norris wins the world championship. That's wow.
I mean, yeah, I'm assuming the headline is just listing off the things that critics have said they were wrong about, but nonetheless, just putting those things front and center when someone winning a championship or whatever it is, in whatever sport, whatever things, it should be a moment of celebration. That framing is not my favorite. And I do agree with you. I don't think he's half. I mean, he's definitely bankrolled by a wealthy father. I mean, you can't ignore that. But,
top 500?
Who isn't?
Me.
Yeah. Find me someone. Who? Yeah. You need to be bankrolled by a wealthy someone to get into F1. So yeah. Unnecessary. I don't like that kind of framing. I think you wait until the winter, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Give him like a couple of hours to. To celebrate. How strange that is.
It's correct that he's proved his critics wrong, but leading with that as a headline is just, especially nowadays when people won't finish reading that before they start reacting to it. Bearing in mind the media have spent the last week telling everyone to behave and not be, abusive to drivers, and then they're all sharing Abu Dhabi 2021 clips to try and rage bait, and then they put headlines like that out. So practice what you preach, folks. Simple as that. I'm not getting back into the Antonelli stuff because I went on one yesterday. So, very odd. But like you say, something you discuss as like analysis in the winter, how Lando Norris proved his critics wrong kind of thing. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've had insight as well, but I've been on the other side of the F1 media thing now, and I can tell you that that's pretty standard for the sort of stuff that gets thrown around because click. Who needs integrity anymore?
I agree.
Hey, Edgar. Good to see you again, mate. He says, didn't Keke almost win the championship without winning a race that season? Was it Keke Rosberg who did that? There was somebody who won like one, didn't they?
There is, and I'm really bad at remembering details through history. I'm sure someone in the chat will immediately back up what was said as I look to my right. But again, if your rivals are winning a handful of races, but also crashing out or not coming high in the points or not delivering podiums on the regular, then, and you are, if you're finishing second every race and your rivals are just all over the place, then maybe you do deserve the title. I think it'd be weird. I think it'd be weird to win the title with no wins, especially now we've got 24 races. But like, if you're the only body delivering consistently, then maybe you should win the title.
Rosberg won 1 in 82 and Lauda won without a single pole in 84. There you go. Stats for you. I will say as well, chat, and people watching, I'm going to push it again, and I am so uncomfortable doing this, but please do subscribe if you are new. I'm trying to get this off the ground for next season, so likes and subs go a long way to helping to get it monetized so it could be full-time. I've still got a bit of time to be able to keep trying to do this, but the sooner we get things monetized, the sooner I can sleep at night and I can stop begging you for subscribers like a typical YouTuber, like likes and subs, share, hype up the stream, and all that nonsense, because that's not me. But yeah, appreciate everyone who subbed this weekend as well. There's been quite a few, so thank you very much. We're about 150 away, I think, from the magic 1,000, and not far off watch time hours, so feel free if you're bored this week to pop a stream for the weekend on in the background, and just keep those watch time hours coming. It
Crack
seems ridiculous. That's it. Crack the hours up. Let's get some more questions. That's that was back on that one. We've answered that one. Thoughts on the departure of DRS, says Max. We've talked about Sauber. It is goodbye to Sauber. It is goodbye to this, what's been a brilliant end to this era. But we also say farewell to DRS, and I'm sure Fernando, I just... Do you know what we say, Fernando Alonso? Is if Aston build the car to beat next year, let's live Fantasyland for a second. He gets to the finale and he gets stuck behind somebody and it costs him the championship, but there's no DRS. That would be so Fernando, which is just his bloody luck, wouldn't it? It's not, as I understand it, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong, you're good at these things, but I don't think it's technically completely gone, because there's a version of it, isn't there? It's that the rear wing now drops drag on the straights, which is not DRS, but it does drop drag, so it does reduce that drag. So it's sort of gone. It's gone as we know it, but there's a version that's come back with Mubelero that works in a similar way.
So yes, the cars will have adjustable aerodynamics. The front and rear wings will basically both have the same thing as DRS. They'll both fold open to reduce drag and increase top speed. But the key thing is it won't be available as an overtaking aid. You don't have to be like within a second of the car in front to activate it. It's not there for the purpose of facilitating overtakes and getting close to the car ahead. It's available to everyone at various points around tracks where they've deemed it safe to do so. So that's going. All drivers will be able to flip that. They'll be like, I think X mode. I think X mode is when the wings are at full drag, and Z mode is when they're kind of flat like DRS. So all the cars will be able to do that throughout the race, throughout qualifying at any time in a safe zone. They will have and again, I don't really know IndyCar, but I'm going to say the phrase IndyCar style push to pass system. So they'll get an energy boost available, which is replacing DRS. So they'll still have an overtaking aid available. So you're sort of replacing DRS with a bit of an energy boost. I'm not a DRS hater. I think it has been a band-aid for what is a tricky solution to aerodynamic turbulence and dirty air and things. I think we've had better races because of it. I think Alonso would agree. It's not perfect. It requires a lot of fine tuning. I don't always think the DRS zones are the right length, and sometimes they're overpowered, sometimes they're underpowered. But I think it's done a decent job, and I think we'd have had much worse races without it. But I am also optimistic for this new era, because I think it's going to be really interesting, because I think we're going to have a lot more strategy throughout the race about deploying energy at different points and recharging and things. I think it's going to be a very different style of racing, and I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to give the drivers a lot more to play with. So I'm not lamenting the loss of DRS, but I am optimistic about what's to come in the future. I think there's a lot of questions to be answered about how I think it's going to be very different, and they're going to have a lot to get used to. So yeah, we might come out of Australia seeing a very different style of racing than we've been used to for the last 20 years.
What I think this new system sounds probably more complicated than it will be once we sort of see it working in race conditions. I think that we'll soon get to grips with it. But what I love about DRS, and will always love about DRS, is it was introduced as a temporary solution.
Yeah.
And it's been around for a long time. I'm not anti-DRS. It does go against the whole, pure racing ethos, but then I think we've long departed those days in probably most motorsport now, to be fair. I don't think anything's as pure. I think beyond karting and very early junior categories, I don't think anything's completely pure now. So I wasn't a big fan of it, but it solved a purpose. It fitted a purpose, solved a problem, But then we just got stuck with it. So I'm much more excited by the push to pass idea. I think that's more strategical, and I enjoy that. You can use it to defend and you can use it to attack, and I prefer that to just, particularly at the start of a new rule set, when you have a dominant few cars and the gap in the field is so big that they just cruise up to the back of a midfielder and breeze past halfway down a straight, and it's just not as exciting. So having push to pass will be fun, but I'm going to miss... I'm not going to miss it at all, no. I was going to say I'm going to miss it a little bit, but I'm not. I think I want to see these drivers work for it. So it's a little bit ballsy by F1 to drop it and move into this new era and not have it there as a fail-safe, but I don't know if things have changed. I may be misremembering, or I may have even made this up, I don't know, but haven't they done it in a way that they could put DRS back on the cars if they needed to in the future? Or am I or is that something that was suggested, or have I made that up? Have I dreamt it? Or probably I dreamt it.
I haven't heard that. I mean, the DRS is there because the wings, flap open. I mean, if we want to get into the reason the things are the way they are going to be is because of the new power units we're moving to, which they have kind of, I think they're probably cool, but they've kind of forced through moving to a stronger electric part. No, it's more 50-50 hybrid-ish. It won't be as strong as 50-50 because they wanted to get these other manufacturers interested, and that's the only way they'd get interested. So that's what we've had to move to. But the downside of that is the cars will run out of energy quite quickly and be at quite reduced power if the aerodynamics of the car were as they were today. So the way to make that work is you have to allow the teams to basically turn the cars as dragless as possible for as much of the lap as they can, so they don't just rinse through their battery energy halfway through a lap, which I think might still happen at some tracks. It's something they're going to have to play with a bit. I'm thinking of things like Monaco, where it's like how often in Monaco you're allowed to go without wings. So all of this is stemming from kind of making these power units work, which could work really well. I am unsure about how it's all going to work out, but yeah, so they can definitely play around with the push to pass system as well to see work out whether they can make it stronger for the attacker or something if they need to. But my optimistic point of view is I don't think we'll need it, because I think people will be playing around with their energy levels a little bit more. Possibly. We shall see. I know the drivers seem to hate it in the simulator, but the drivers always hate everything in the simulator. Every time you tell a driver you're going to change something, they're going to hate it. So I don't think you're in this era we've just been through. I don't think you're ever going to be able to get rid of DRS, no matter how optimistic they were about it being a temporary solution, because I think dirty air is always going to be a problem, and the only way to get rid of DRS was to get rid of wings and make the floors flat, which is probably not going to happen. You'd lose about 30 seconds a lap from the cars, and they'd be a whole lot slower than they are now, and I don't think Formula 1 is prepared to go in that direction. I think it would be more exciting, but I don't think they're prepared to lose the raw speed that they got.
Yeah. I just watched you chat, wait for the first person to start singing Dirty Air. Now you've said Dirty Air. Thank you to, you're down as someone on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you to someone. I'll say Van Gils is your email. So thank you very much for your support. It says, let's get you back up there. Love your content. Thank you very much for your support on Buy Me a Coffee, which is a pretty cool site, by the way. It seems quite cool. So thank you very much. And thank you as well to Yori, who says, I'll watch it back later, but glad for another race reaction. Thank you very much for we'll call them super chats, because that's effectively what they are for now. So thank you very much for your support, except the only advantage, of course, to Buy Me a Coffee is that YouTube don't take that bloody 30%, because they work so hard on the stream. The swines.
Yeah.
I'll only buy you a tea, never coffee, says Nick. Call it Buy Me a Tea if you want, mate. I prefer tea to coffee anyway. So a couple more quick fire questions, then we'll wrap it up for today, because it's been nearly the 2 hour mark, which is the maximum I like to do. So 4 hours. I did see somebody asking about testing streams. I do intend to do them. I do need to ask if some people are interested. Looks intently at the camera. Hope Stuart's still listening. If he fancies a couple, because I know they're quite a slog, aren't they? But we really enjoy just sitting and talking nonsense for several hours about F1, especially with a new rule set. That's good fun. I know Jonty says he's up for it as well. So,
oh, I am there. I'm so excited to see these cars in testing. I'm so ready because it's going to be such a change. I'm really up for it.
It's completely different, isn't it? Although I will say that the 3D model they've been showing off, because apparently F1 are the only ones to ever 3D print anything. They're very excited by it. They've been showing off. It doesn't look that. Obviously, it is different. There are, the front wing's different, and the way that the floor's going to work is different. And we're going back to the step bottom, aren't we? And things like that. But it doesn't look as drastically different as when we got the prototype 2021 as it was then car through. It doesn't look as different. They definitely look smaller. I mean, that 3D printout was obviously quite a lot smaller. If we go to that size car, I'd be well up for it. But yeah,
what is this? A championship for ants?
Who was that? Fernando Alonso or
Zoolander.
Of course it is. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to next season. But I'm less. I think hearing the drivers be a bit more positive about it now helps me feel less skeptical. But I'm always skeptical going into a rule change, because I know, and you'll know, and many others will know, that it probably means that one team will be the dominant force. And I just hope that we end up with 2 or 3 teams getting it right. Is my big hope. But I'm looking forward to Ted having to explain it all with cheese as well. Which
I'm always ready for Ted's explanation of things. If whatever happens, I hope it goes more the way that this ground effect era went, where teams caught up reasonably quickly and it became a little bit more competitive. I mean, especially in the midfield, but then the sort of what I guess you call the hybrid era from 2014 to 2021, where essentially one team got off the ball running and never really looked back. Even though we got that sort of Vettel's attempts to fight back, it never really got to the stage we're at now. Considering what we went through in that Mercedes era, it is quite incredible. We went from Red Bull being very dominant in 2022 and 2023 to us coming through and then McLaren and other teams fighting for them, and Red Bull came third last year as well. Is that right?
I
think so. I mean,
yeah. Ferrari was second.
To be able to have that turnaround in the very short amount of time these rules existed, I think I'd like to be able to see that, especially as, I don't know, if MBS gets his way, we'll be back to diesel engines by 2030. So yeah, who knows?
Nice to see MBS, by the way, continue to take a step back at the podium today. Not getting as involved in F1, but still right there in your face. But hey, look, we've got a few more years with him as FIA president after his very fair democratic election. After all of his rivals accidentally brutally cut the head off while shaving. That was a Blackadder reference-ish, I think. I did see somebody ask about... John says, last time I bought Sean any drinks, we ended up playing Beat Saber to Cascada at 2 a.m. and singing to Mr. Vane, John. So don't forget that. We were rapping. I saw a question I wanted to ask before we wrapped up, but I can't find it now, so I may have to just pretend I answered it. Yeah, I can't find it. I'm so sorry.
I believe in you.
It was a great question. I promise it was amazing. But I can't find it. So I will very Nick says, I'd take diesel over turbo hybrid, V10 diesel ? And this is here it is. CPB says, did we just see Max Verstappen's last ever win for Red Bull this afternoon? Ooh. No. I if that car is anywhere near the top 3 next season, he will win a race. I'm almost certain of it. But I like the idea that maybe it's his last season for Red Bull, and maybe, especially given his good relationship with Kimi Antonelli, he might end up at Mercedes for 27. Who knows? But do you think that's his last race for Red Bull, or his last race win for Red Bull, or his last race win for a while, Stuart?
Obviously, it's impossible to say, but I do think this particular moment in time is the most volatile and has the greatest chance of leaving him in a desert of wins. for a while, because we don't. Not only do we not know how the teams will respond to these regulations, we don't know how Red Bull are going to be at sort of being much more in charge of their own engine design and manufacture. They've got the partnership with Ford, but as far as I understand, Ford are just there to help with the kind of electric side of things. So Red Bull really have to like manage a whole new side of things. It's going to be the first year that they are entirely without Christian Horner, and like him or hate him, I'm not a fan of him as a person, but he did lead that team to a lot of success. So they are, managing different things. A lot of their staff left during the whole kerfuffle over a couple of years, including Adrian Newey. So they go, this year was sort of the tail end of the remnants of the Red Bull that was, and now going into next year, this is going to be sort of a whole new thing. So there's a lot of question marks over it. So there is a bigger possibility than ever that Red Bull will be on their arse next year. I'm not saying they will, but if ever there was a time, now is the time that it could happen. So possibly, and as Verstappen has long said, he's not in Red Bull. He's not in F1 for the long term, let alone Red Bull. He's been fairly coy about what he wants to do. I don't think he's very shy about leaving Red Bull if he wants to leave Red Bull. I think if he wanted to leave next year, any team would take him. So he could do that. I think he seems pretty happy there, but we'll see. He started to dabble in other racing. We know he wanted to do sports car racing, and now he started it. So even if Red Bull's competitive next year, but he doesn't like the style of racing, next year could be his last year with the team, whether they're winning or not. He might think like, this is a rubbish way of driving. I'm going to go and do endurance racing now. Bye. So yeah, so I think it's a low chance, but I think it's a higher chance than it's been for a long time, to answer your question in a very long-winded way.
CPB just to make the point that he was making was that will Red Bull be a top 3 team next season? I think in response to my answer, because I said that if that's a top 3 car, he will win in it. But I think Red Bull will surprise a lot of us next year. We talk about the possibility of it all going wrong, but even in their difficult latter days with Renault, they were still podium finishers and competing for wins from time to time. So I think even if that's a top 4 car, I can see Max winning a race next year. Might need some luck, might need some chaos, might need a banzai lap in Monaco in quali and then hold everybody up for the race. But I think he will win a race next year, provided that Red Bull's in a decent place. Like CPB said, if it's outside top 4, no. But then again, Carlos Sainz got 2 podiums this year, so yeah, anything's possible. Yeah. Anything's possible.
And he's a very intelligent racer, and he's very on top of things. And I think you're going to need a lot of you're going to need to manage a lot of strategy with the cars next year. And I think people like him and Alonso and Sainz and Russell have all shown their thinking very broadly during the race about what's happening in the larger picture, where everybody is, what's happening with their strategy compared to everyone else. And I think that's also a kind of mentality you're going to need to have to succeed next year. And he is obviously one of those drivers that's very, very good at that.
Just before I was going to finish, thank you very much to the Haprust for a super chat over on Buy Me a Coffee. It says coffee is expensive in Lincoln, isn't it? It's very expensive, mate. Incredibly expensive. It costs more than rent. It's ridiculous. But thank you very much, mate, for your support. Thank you for your support all season as well, to everyone who's dropped an equivalent to a super chat in, and even to those who haven't. Still thank you for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. But we're going to wrap it up there, Stuart, because it has been the classic F1 word hour, 2 hours and 8 minutes. So that's not bad. I think you said before it has been worse. We have done a lot worse than that on a race reaction, so that's not too bad. But yeah, appreciate the chat, Stuart, and hopefully we'll be able to get together for testing, and there'll be plenty to talk about and some excitement in testing. We don't often get excitement in testing, but it should be good. I'm expecting a lot of reliability issues early on, which could be fun.
Well, hopefully most of those reliability issues will be dealt with in the secret private test that none of us get to see in Barcelona. But we get 3 public tests, 2 public tests. It's quite a lot of tests, isn't there?
There's the private test in January, which seems obscene, by the way, and launches before that, apparently, for some teams. Then it's the first televised test in February. Then there's the second televised test. So it's 9 days, but we only officially get to see 6 of them, but I suspect there'll be some content will seep out from the private test. But the private test makes me laugh because that is just so F1 teams don't want to be embarrassed, isn't it, on the first time the cars go out. That's what that's about. They don't want to be humiliated by their car failing or not working or whatever like that. So, which I could understand, but yeah, 3 lots of testing, but we only get to see 2. So I'm not doing 9 days if we don't get to see the first 3. That'd be just impossible to do anything with. But yeah, a lot of testing, and of course, with first launches mid-January, I can only assume that Haas are going to launch in probably Christmas Day for Haas for a launch, probably. They like to be first.
I'm interested that Red Bull are doing a livery launch in mid-January, which makes me suggest they're going to do another shift. Maybe the matte era is over. Are we going to go to the blue Ford livery they run in Formula in F1 Academy? Maybe. It's a rare day that Red Bull change their livery. So
it would be hilarious. We're doing a livery launch mid-January, and here's the same livery. It's a bit like Ferrari. It's red. Well, yeah, that's intriguing. They're doing a joint one with Racing Bulls as well, aren't they? So, although they can leave that Racing Bulls livery as it is, I'm quite happy with that. It's a nice looking car, but yeah, looking forward to that. No, it'll be pink or something, fluorescent orange. Papaya. They'll copy McLaren. Yeah, no, I like that livery, so I hope they don't change it. But yeah, nothing else to say really, Stuart. Thank you very much for today. Been a pleasure as always when we do these race reactions. And yeah, it's not the best race to end on, but it was good enough for Abu Dhabi, and we got a new world champion. So lots to celebrate for Norris fans. They're probably all drunk now already. So yeah, I'm gonna go and drown my sorrows as a Ferrari and a Verstappen fan. But yeah, happy otherwise.
Don't be sad that you finished third in the fourth in the championship with a whimper. Be happy that it starts afresh at the next race.
Next year is our year. An evergreen statement. Yeah, we'll leave it there though, Stuart. Thank you so much. It's been, like I said, it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll talk again very soon.
It's a pleasure to be back. It's been far too long. Okay, bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
We're so awkward at saying goodbye. I love it. Cheers. I'll go to the end screen. Thank you, Stuart. Let's go to the end screen. There we go. We are there. Yes, thank you very much to Stuart. Thank you as well to you guys for tuning in. Yeah, thank you for your support this season. It's been a bit of a weird one, a bit of a rough end with Planet Sport being the way they are. But yeah, we're here now on Formula Sean. The F1 word will still be around next season, but this is a place to be. Damn it. For the future of the channel, I'm still going to be around talking nonsense about F1. So thank you for your support over the last couple of months. It's been really appreciated. For the most part, you've really helped to keep me sane. So thank you very much. And thank you as well for your just for being patient, I guess, with it all. It's been difficult, but you're all legends, and thank you for your super chats, thank you for your subs, thank you for your likes and your views. It's been a great season as well, so looking forward to 2026, as I say, and hopefully plenty to look forward to there. I will be back at some point soon. There will be content in December, not a lot, because I'm going to take a little break over Christmas and New Year to get over myself and everything that happened towards the back end of this year. So, but there will be stuff out in December. There'll be something on the F1 word at some point. I'll let you know what's happening over there with content next year, but that's second priority at the moment. And then, of course, lots in 2026. And we'll be back with the Christmas stream as well. Hopefully, I think I need to confirm with Jonty, but I think Sunday, the 21st for the Christmas stream. But I will let you know in the post section. Likes and subs before you go, greatly appreciated. And again, for the final time, thank you for your support. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Formula Sean, and until next time, goodbye.